Hey Rock, what number are you calling me so I know when I'm on there? Okay. They've made the turn. They've made the turn.
They're coming back.
Sorry?
They're coming back.
Yeah, they do the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you are able, please rise and remove your headdress before the entrance of the funeral procession, led by Pipe Major Provincial Constable Chris Gilbertson of the Commissioner's Own Pipes and Drums. Sergeant Malcolm's safe passage has been entrusted to the Ontario Provincial Police Ceremonial Unit. Please remain standing as we honor our country with the singing of our national anthem, which will be performed by Provincial Constable Richard Pauls, followed by a moment of silence. On behalf of members in uniform, Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Thomas Creek will salute. All uniform members, please come to attention.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I would ask you to please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence to honor the life of Sergeant Brandon Malcolm. Please be seated. Good morning. My name is Carl Thomas. I am the Chief Superintendent with the Ontario Provincial Police, and I was Brandon's Regional Commander. I'm deeply humbled and honored to be presiding over this ceremony as we celebrate the life of Sergeant Brandon Malcolm. As a commander, we carry constant fear of losing one of our members. We watch the calls that come in throughout our region. We worry every day about the safety of our members. When we lose one of our own, it has a profound effect on all of us, our officers, leaders, our families and friends, and our communities. Last week, many of us watched as Brandon was escorted back to his community. The journey from Toronto passed along communities and under overpasses where fellow officers, emergency services personnel, and members of the public lined the streets and bridges to honor Sergeant Malcolm. They stood in solidarity with one of their own. We saw the flags, salutes, and hands placed over hearts. We witnessed and felt deep and profound grief together. I thank everyone who attended then and each of you who have come here today to honor our fallen colleague. During these times, emotional and difficult times, I ask each of you to be there for one another. To all the members of Northumberland Detachment, we are here with you. We will continue to support you through this painful time. To Brandon's family here today, his spouse Vashti, his mother Lisa, and his father Nigel, the impact of Brandon's life and work reached far beyond the calls for service he answered, and he will be remembered for it. I recently had the privilege about learning more about Brandon. It's no surprise that he was active with his local OPP association and that his office at home was lined with accolades for tremendous work he did. I am told he was always humbled, receiving phone calls from command, often thinking he was getting in trouble. Vashti, or V, as she is affectionately known, would reassure him that he was likely being recognized for his accomplishments, and that is exactly what those calls were for. Thank you, V, Lisa, and Nigel, and the rest of your family for sharing this day with us and for allowing us to pay our respects to Brandon. We stand with you and share in your grief. The loss we all feel is immeasurable. Today, we are honored by the presence of the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, His Honor Tony Viscardi, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Michael Kersner, Solicitor General, representatives from all levels of government, chiefs of police, and their members from across the country. Ontario Provincial Police Association, President David Sabatini, OPP Detachment Board members, representatives from many police and emergency services, Mayor of Cobourg, Indigenous leaders, our own members of the Ontario Provincial Police, and members of our communities who join us remotely. On behalf of the Malcolm family and Commissioner Creek, I welcome all of you to today's service. Over the course of the service, we will hear from several speakers, including members of government, police officials, family, and friends. At this time, I invite the 30th Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, Her Honor, the Honorable Edith Dumont, to the podium.
Commissioner Carrick, Premier Ford, family, friends, colleagues, and all who are grieving. Bonjour, good morning, bonjour. Aujourd'hui, nous rendons hommage à la mémoire du sergent Brandon Malcolm. Today, we gather to remember the life and service of Sergeant Brandon Malcolm. As His Majesty the King's representative in Ontario, I offer my deepest condolences to you all. There will come a day when Sergeant Malcolm's name will be engraved on the Ontario Police Memorial near Queen's Park in Toronto. On its pedestal is written, "Heroes in life, not death." Words that could describe Sergeant Malcolm. He made a deep commitment to serving the people of Ontario and Canada with the Toronto Police Services Auxiliary as a reservist in the Canadian Armed Forces and with the Ontario Provincial Police. Colleagues who served alongside him have shared with me some of their recollections. Sergeant Malcolm was known to be larger than life. With his big frame, He could appear intimidating, but those who got to know him quickly realized he was someone who would, and I quote, do anything for anybody. He was devoted to serving the public and to helping his fellow officers as an Ontario Provincial Police Association representative. In 2022, Sergeant Malcolm became a motor officer. 2 years later, he joined the Golden Helmets Precision Motorcycle Riding Team. The training was intense, and he worked diligently, listened intently, and quickly became a proud member of a tight-knit group. The team performed across the province, and Sergeant Malcolm loved interacting with the public. He would show people how to pick up a heavy Harley-Davidson motorcycle, encourage children to sit on their saddles, and sell golden helmets, hats, and pins for charities such as the War Amps. And people loved him back. When he was sitting at the merchandise table, often the team would sell so many hats that they would run out. And even then, people would continue to show their support by offering donations. Sergeant Malcolm's giving nature would encourage others to give. His presence was a spark of goodness. The impact of his contributions will be felt by the people of Ontario and Canada for generations to come. Son héritage va continuer de vivre à travers les générations qu'il a inspirées. May all of us here today, and those who are watching across the province, be inspired by the pride he took in helping others. And may we remember him always. Nous nous souviendrons de lui toujours. A tribute to Sergeant Malcolm, I would like to leave you with some lines from a poem, Motor Officers by Ron Walker. Sometimes when one has fallen, never to ride again, you can hear the others calling like thunder on the wind. Side by side, they slowly ride, and their thunder is a mournful sound. And the mirrors hide their eyes from us when teardrops falls to ground. So if you see one riding and you look into his face, you see your reflection in his eyes, you know that you are safe. For motor officers are a special breed. They love to ride the wind. And when you hear the thunder boom, the fallen ones ride again.
Thank you, Your Honor. I now turn the podium over to the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Ford.
Your Honor, Commissioner Creek, ministers, Deputy Solicitor General, and Brandon's family. V, Lisa, and Nigel, our hearts break for you. We'll always be there for you. It's with heavy hearts that we gather today in memory of the life and service of OPP Sergeant Brandon Malcolm, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty. As we remember Sergeant Malcolm, I want to assure his loved ones and his colleagues that all of Ontario grieves with you in the face of this terrible loss. As a proud veteran of the Canadian military, former auxiliary with the Toronto Police Services, and an accomplished member of the OPP's Golden Helmets motorcycle team, Sergeant Malcolm dedicated his life to serving his country, our province, and the community here in Northumberland. Very few people in this country could ever say they served all three. Sergeant Malcolm's lifelong goal was to become a police officer, and his life was dedicated to public service, is one we should all aspire to. Every day across our province, tens of thousands of men and women in uniform step out their front doors and serve their communities with pride to keep the people of Ontario out of harm's way. Sergeant Brandon Malcolm did exactly that, but he went even further. When he was at community events, what I've heard, kids would come up to him when he was on the motorcycle, and that made his day. Brandon was a big man, but his heart was even larger. And I know Sergeant Malcolm represented the very best of Ontario. Bravery, compassion, and a commitment to leave his community better than he found it. Every one of us here today has a responsibility to celebrate Sergeant Malcolm's life, honor the standard of excellence he set, and did never ever forget his sacrifice. That's what the average public doesn't understand. People within the police family, they put their uniforms on every single day to serve the public. And some days, they don't come home. To Sergeant Malcolm's family and loved ones here today and his colleagues that served with him, I promise you, his legacy will never, ever be forgotten by the people of Ontario. He will be remembered forever as the hero he was, setting an example for all of us to follow. Thank you, and may God bless our men and women in uniform. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier Ford. I now introduce the Commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police, Thomas Creek, and welcome him to the podium.
On behalf of Sergeant Malcolm's spouse, V, parents, Nigel and Lisa, his loving family, and the 10,000 members of the Ontario Provincial Police, I am pleased to welcome the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Deputy Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Michael Kersner, Solicitor General of Ontario, Head of the Ontario Public Service, Secretary of Cabinet, Michelle D'Emmanuel, Deputy Solicitor General, Mario Di Tommaso, and the President of the Ontario Police Association, Mr. David Sabatini. Your Honor and Premier, thank you for your heartfelt comments at the Ontario Police Memorial on Sunday, and again this morning. We are also grateful to the many dignitaries representing all levels of government and our fellow public safety colleagues for your presence today. I am beyond thankful for the outpouring of support for the OPP and Brandon's family from communities across the province, especially the town of Cobourg, our fellow first responders, and our Canadian policing family. Special thanks to Cobourg and Port Hope Police for assisting us operationally, and to the Toronto Police and York Regional Police for supporting V and Jared, not only today, but moving forward as members of your respective police services. V, Nigel, and Lisa, thank you for the esteemed honor to pay tribute to Brandon, a loved and respected member of our OPP. Being a motor officer is an earned privilege given to the select few. As Her Honor highlighted, a special breed who possess a fierce determination to overcome repeated failure while learning to operate a 900-pound motor with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel and the agility and grace of a ballet performance on two wheels. Motor officers possess the physical and psychological strength to persevere endless kilometers in extreme weather, the courage to be exposed to greater risk, and a relentless commitment to professionalism, along with a passion for community as one of our most visible forms of policing. None more notable than my very own Golden Helmets. A proud Golden Helmet, Sergeant Brandon Malcolm exemplified all of these character traits and more. A rapidly rising young leader whose experience and contributions far exceeded his years of service. Whatever he did, he was all in, giving it his all. A general law enforcement officer, crime detective, uniformed sergeant, and a Golden Helmet. His knowledge, skill, and pride set the standard that inspired others to be like Brandon. His commitment to and care for his members and teammates distinguished him as a leader from day one, a natural, gifted, and dependable leader who people followed because he put people first, and officers trusted him with great confidence. First to lend a hand or enthusiastically volunteer, he led by example. He could be counted on when he was needed most, and for the smallest tasks that truly showed how much he cared. Like most recently on April the 19th, when he selflessly rode through rain and snow to lead a very special funeral procession for a former police officer who was also the proud father of a fallen OPP officer, bringing immense pride and respect to members of their family, including 2 currently serving OPP officers. A respected former Attorney General and former Chief Prosecutor of Ontario, who recently witnessed Sergeant Malcolm testify at an inquest, described him as brave, a true professional, proud of his service to the community, a young man who had unlimited potential as a leader. Similarly, a veteran local reporter who dealt with Brandon at various scenes referred to him as an amazing police officer, a person who in times of chaos had a calming effect on people, someone others could rely upon when things were falling apart. A true protector, Sergeant Malcolm stood strongly between good and evil, valiantly protecting the vulnerable. As you've heard, larger than life. The only thing bigger than his physical presence was his positive energy, his heart that he willingly shared with everyone. Always recognizable by his contagious signature smile, performing as a high-skilled and accomplished Golden Helmet, he inspired and connected with children who may someday follow in his footsteps. At the same time, he left many adults wishing they were fortunate enough, in fact, determined enough to live out their dreams. To some, me included, Brandon had one of the coolest and most meaningful jobs anyone could ever dream of. Being an OPP officer and a Golden Helmet was what Brandon was meant to be. We are devastated by his sudden loss, while grateful for his dedication to duty. The focused pursuit of his goals led him to selflessly protecting Northumberland County, fiercely upholding the law, and proudly representing the OPP as a Golden Helmet across more than 1 million square kilometers that is our vast and great province. Especially given the significant size and enormous scope and span of the OPP, personally, I am oh so grateful that I was blessed to spend time with Brandon in his capacity as a Golden Helmet, something I will forever cherish and fondly reflect upon each and every time I ride a police motor or I hear the rumbling thunder of one. Sergeant Brandon Malcolm, we are forever yours, and you forever ours. Rest in peace. God bless your family, who we will remain committed to as part of our steadfast, proud, and devoted OPP family.
Thank you, Commissioner. Amazing Grace will be sung by Mr. Robert Pilon, accompanied by the Ontario Provincial Police Pipe Major, Provincial Constable Chris Gilbertson. Mr. Pilon, if you would.
Amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, oh, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Was lost, oh, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Mr. Pilon and Provincial Constable Gilbertson. At this time, I welcome Constable Jarrett Malcolm from the York Regional Police to join the podium for a few words of reflection.
Good afternoon. I'd like to apologize for that loud baby that you guys hear. That's my son. It's gonna take a lot to get through this one. Of course, it would be Brandon that has me up on stage doing public speaking in front of all these people. But I can feel his big bear hug arms around me right now, helping me while also whispering in my ear, "Suck it up, stop being soft." In addition to Brandon's arms, I'll ask everyone here today to give me a virtual hug and wrap their arms around me and my family as I get through this. Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, and colleagues, and all who have gathered here today, we come together not just to mourn the loss of my brother, Brandon Malcolm, but to celebrate the incredible life he lived. A life filled with purpose, dedication, and an unwavering love for others. It is with a heavy heart, although filled with pride, that I reflect on the profound impact he had on all who knew him. Pops, Lisa, Vashti, and to the rest of my family, I will ask that you quickly look around and you see just how loved Brandon was. Today, I'm standing here not just as a police officer, but as a brother, someone who had the privilege of growing up alongside Brandon, learning from him, with him, and sharing a bond that has always been there, even when life got busy. You see, Brandon was the kind of person you don't forget. Strong-willed, competitive, driven, and if you knew him well, you knew that competitive edge wasn't just about winning. It was about pushing himself and quietly pushing the people he cared about to be better too. Brandon and I were a lot alike in that way. Growing up, we challenged each other constantly. Whether it's something small or something that felt big at the time, there was always this unspoken understanding between us that we were on the same team, even when we were competing. You see, Brandon he always had to one-up me. I got my first tattoo on my right shoulder with my pops in Florida. Guess you had to do the same not too long ago. So Brandon got his first on the same spot. Mine was obviously better though. We did guitar lessons together, we watched movies together. More specifically, we watched our first horror movie together as well, The Blair Witch. I don't recommend. Even though we were terrified, we doubled down and we made another bad decision. We watched another horror movie, it's called The Ring. I can honestly say that was the worst decision that we've ever made. Because my pops thought it was a good idea to call us shortly after and say, 7 days. If you watch that movie, you could probably imagine the fear and terror that me and Brandon were engulfed with. Our relationship was a special bond. Down to when he moved to Florida, he tried to get me to move down there to attend the same school with him. That didn't change as we got older, it just looked different. Life got busy, careers, responsibilities, everything that comes with being adults, but that connection between us never really went away. We still checked in, we looked out for each other in our own way. He actually became a thorn in my side trying to recruit me to the OPP. I'm talking every single time we spoke, it was, come to the OPP, come to the OPP. Fun fact, he actually had he was at the OPC intake right before mine. As you can see, he tried to one-up me in everything that we do. There was always that mutual respect, not just as brothers, but as men who chose a path of service. He was such a great brother to his 3 older siblings who admired him, down to all his younger siblings who he kept engaging on the right path. He looked out because he cared deeply for his family. I remember this one joke he used to tell you guys when you would complain about something. He'd say, hey, you want some try-acting? They'd get all excited about it and say, yeah, we want some try-acting. He'd say, try acting like a man. But Brandon was so much more than just my brother. He was a fiance, someone who loved deeply and was building a life with his person, Vashti, A future that was filled with plans, hopes, and everything that comes with choosing someone to stand beside you through it all. V, he loved you so dearly. He was a son, and the kind of son who made his family proud, not just in the big moments, but in everyday ways that matter most. He would travel down 2 to 3 times to New Brunswick to see the family. Though you're miles apart, he would make that effort in his crazy life and schedule. I remember my pops couldn't fly down to Florida to see his headstone to his late mother, my grandmother. He actually thought at one point he wouldn't be able to just because of how life gets ahead of you sometimes, but Brandon took it upon himself to fly to Florida, dust and clean off the headstone before taking a photo beside it with some beautiful flowers for you, Pops. That's a true testament to the kind of man he was, Mr. Above and Beyond. And he was a friend to so many, the kind of friend who showed up, who had your back, who you could count on without question, the kind of person you felt safe with. He wore the uniform of the Ontario Provincial Police with pride, and anyone who knew him knows that that wasn't just a job to him, it was who he was. He showed up, he did the work, he carried the responsibility, and he did it with the same determination and grit that defined him in every part of his life. Brandon was not only a devoted police officer, but he was also a beacon of hope in the community. He believed deeply in justice, fairness, and the opportunity for everyone to feel secure and valued. His choice to serve in the police force was not merely a career decision, it was a calling. He took pride in wearing that uniform and dedicated himself wholeheartedly to protecting those around him with courage in his heart and a fierce commitment to doing what was right. It's hard to put into words what it means to lose someone like him, especially the way we did. There's a weight to it, a kind of silence that doesn't feel right, because he was never someone who lived quietly. He made an impact on his family, his colleagues, and everyone lucky enough to know him. But if there's one thing I keep coming back to, it's this. He lived with purpose, he showed up for people, and he never backed down from who he was. As a police officer, I understand the risk that comes with this job, but standing here today, that understanding doesn't make this loss any easier. It just makes me even more aware of the kind of person he had to be to do what he did every single day. As his brother, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the man he became, proud of the life he built, proud of the way he carried himself, both in and out of uniform. I wish we had more time. I think we all did. But I'm grateful for the time we had, for the memories, the competitions, the check-ins, and that bond that never really left, no matter how busy life got. He'll always be a part of me, part of how I show up, part of how I carry myself moving forward. I think in a lot of ways, that's how we keep him with us. We don't just remember him, we live in a way that reflects the best part of who he was. Early this week, his fiancée, V, said something to me that really resonated with me for the rest of my life. She said to me, "You gained a guardian angel." Such simple words, but I've never felt the truth of something so deeply. The more I've sat with it, the more I've come to realize that it wasn't just me. You did too, V. In some ways, I think we all did. As we say goodbye today, let us not dwell solely on the sorrow of our loss, but also celebrate the life that he lived. A life dedicated to helping others, filled with laughter, love, and unwavering strength. My brother may no longer be with us in body, but his spirit will live on in each of us, in the way we love, in the way we serve, and in the way we choose to remember him. Brandon is once again teaching us lessons even in spirit, to love the people you love while they're here. Pick up the phone, call that friend, brother, sister, mother, father, whoever it may be, tell them you love them. You will always be in our hearts, Brandon, and your legacy will shine brightly. Thank you for the life you lived, the love you shared, and the countless ways you have inspired us all. Rest easy, brother. We've got your watch from here.
Thank you for those touching words, Jared. At this time, I welcome Vashti, Ganesh, Carol, and Jason Prasad to the podium for words of reflection.
Today I stand here to honor my husband, the man I loved for 10 years, the man who gave his life to serving others. We met at Scarborough Town Center in the most ordinary way. I don't think either of us knew in that moment how much our lives would change. What started as a simple meeting turned into a love that became my home, my strength, and my greatest blessing. He wasn't just a husband, he was my best friend. He knew how to make me laugh when I didn't want to, how to calm me when life felt overwhelming, and how to remind me about what truly mattered. He loved deeply, fully, and without hesitation, and I felt that every single day. But he also had another calling, one that he believed in with all of his heart. Being a police officer wasn't just a job for him. It's who he was. He believed in protecting people, doing what was right, even when it was hard. He carried that responsibility with pride, with courage, and with a quiet strength that I admired more than I can put into words. Of course, that calling came with sacrifices. There were long nights, missed moments, and the constant worry that comes with loving someone who runs towards danger when everyone runs away. He showed up for his community, his colleagues, and for us. And while the world sees a hero in uniform, I was lucky enough to know the man behind it. The one who loved, or who laughed at the smallest things, who loved deeply, and who made every day feel extraordinary just being in it. Losing him this way is something I can't fully put into words. It just doesn't feel real. And yet, even in this unbearable pain, I know this. He died doing what he believed in. And that is the kind of man he was. Selfless, brave, and full of love. I carry him with me always, in every memory, every laugh, every quiet moment. He will forever still be my home. He is still my heart. And to you, Brandon, thank you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for every moment we had together. I will love you for the rest of my life.
On behalf of our family, I want to take a moment to honor the man who became much more than a brother-in-law and a son-in-law. He was a brother, he was a son. He became a part of our family in every way that mattered. From the moment Brandon entered our lives, he brought warmth, kindness, and a steady sense of care. He loved deeply. He showed that love not only in words, but in everyday things that often meant the most. The way he showed up, the way he listened, the way he made people feel welcome and valued. He was a devoted husband, a person whose presence brought comfort. He had a way of making family gatherings brighter, especially with his salmon-colored suit.
His laughter, his generosity, his quiet strength will remain with us. He was someone we could rely on, someone who cared sincerely, someone whose love left a lasting mark on all of us. One of the greatest gifts in life is to have people who choose to love your family as their own. Brandon did that. He did not simply join our family, he helped shape it. He was also a public servant. He wore the uniform with pride. He was the kind of man that ran toward, not away. That is who he was at work, and that is who he was at home. The same steady, dependable man in every part of his life. We will miss his voice, his smile, and the many ordinary moments that now feel precious. We will carry gratitude for the time we shared with him, and we will remember him in our stories, in our traditions, and the love that remains. Though we grieve his loss, we also celebrate the person he was, a loving son, devoted husband, a brother, a friend, a public servant, and a cherished part of our family. Before I close, on behalf of our entire family, there is something important we want to say. To the Commissioner, to Chief Thomas, the members of Brandon's Detachment, Toronto Police Service, and the community at large, thank you. Thank you for the overwhelming outpouring of love, support, and solidarity during this heartbreaking time. Your compassion, your presence, and your shared grief have lifted us up in ways we will never forget and will forever remain in our hearts. May he rest in peace. We love you, Brandon, and thank you for loving my sister.
Thank you for sharing with us. Speaking on behalf of their colleagues, I now welcome Provincial Constable Justin Burton Nelson, Graydon Maynard, and Morgan Murphy to the podium.
To Malcolm, Sergeant Malcolm, Big Sarge, or from the Golden Helmets, Pedialyte. Or, when I was mad at him, I'd use his full name, Brandon Trey Jamal Malcolm. Today, myself, Justin, and Murphy have the opportunity as friends and colleagues of Malcolm to honor, celebrate, and share the stories of our time with him in his memory. As we all know, this job shows you the worst of the worst. And one of the ways to get through it is to have that person to smile and laugh with when navigating the tough times. Malcolm was my guy for this. We had been through it all together, and we were bonded for life. The days since Malcolm's passing have been a blur, but the support has truly been remarkable. I cannot relate to the feelings of the families right now. I lost a best friend, a colleague, and an incredible human being. But they've lost a husband, a son, a brother, a leader, a role model, and someone that would do anything for his family. Over the course of the week, I've been able to share the good and the funny stories with both Malcolm and Vashti's family, just to put a smile on their face and take a moment out of this tragedy. When Vashti called us and asked if we'd like to do a speech, we just looked at each other, and we knew it would be an incredible honor to speak about Malcolm. However, our typical response was, V, don't you know cops hate talking in front of people, and we don't like being recorded. With that, I'll pass it to Justin for a few words.
I met Malcolm, or better known as Big Sarge, in the summer of 2022, where I was quickly adopted by Maynard and Murphy, as well as Malcolm, as one of the boys. One of my earliest memories of Malcolm was when we were trying to stop a billy goat from running down the side of the 401. And you could hear it in his voice that he was not very familiar with dealing with livestock. When I arrived on scene and being the rookie, I was told to go chase the goat down the 401, so I did. And when we finally got it cornered, I remember, I'm the rookie, I have to jump on this thing. So I jumped on it, and right behind me was Malcolm, right on top of me, wrestling with this stinky, hairy goat on the side of the 401. So we finally got it carried to the cruiser and put it into the back. But from that moment, we shared a bond that only two people could after wrestling a goat in a ditch. Malcolm was always a kind but intimidating person who had a unique way of telling you when you were wrong or when you weren't doing something fast enough. But he always left you with a smile. He was a bigger-than-life person who always stood for his values and always looked after his platoon. His smile and laugh could lift tension and bring a room to ease even in the most difficult of times. He was an amazing friend who listened and genuinely cared even about the smallest things. He was my mentor, always pushing me to take on more leadership roles and to develop me, but most importantly, he was my brother. Although not by blood, the bond and experiences we shared cemented that. He did spend some time coaching me when I was early on the job, and he often wouldn't let me drive. And he said that it was because he had car sickness, but I just figured that he was afraid of my driving. He shared his own experiences and was always trying to make me better. I learned a lot from him, as he was always somebody you could go to and ask for advice, even if he thought that question was stupid. He cared so much about all the members of his platoon and detachment and would go that extra mile to guide us and help wherever he could, often being right in the thick of it with us, but always with that smile. I remember the last conversation I had with Malcolm. We were in the detachment parking lot in Cobourg talking about life and random little things. He was gearing up as he was on the bike that day. And there was always light teasing with him being a golden helmet or a copper pot. But he loved every second he was on that bike, and it was what he lived for and what he was so proud to do. And I think that the teasing came from we were all just maybe a little bit jealous. I wish I could have talked to him forever in that parking lot. And I wish I could have given him one last hug. Malcolm, you will always be watching our six, and you will always have our backs. You will always be missed, but never forgotten. I love you, and rest easy, brother.
I had the privilege of knowing Malcolm as a co-worker and a close friend since 2021 when I came on with the OPP. I came from Nova Scotia and I didn't know anyone, and quite quickly Malcolm, Maynard took me under their wing and treated me like one of their own. Not long after, Justin became part of that group, and from then on, we made more memories than we can count. Malcolm was someone that I really looked up to right away, and he quickly became a mentor to me. Not only was he everyone's go-to for questions or guidance, but more than that, he was also the calm in the storm. No matter how serious the call, if you knew Malcolm was there or on his way, you knew things were going to be all right. More than a few times, he showed up to my calls or backup requests with his cruiser just about smoking from how fast he got there, but his priority was simple, just making sure that his people were safe. I'll miss all his friendly chirps. He never let me live down my rookie mistakes of how I would stage for a call in somebody's driveway versus down the road. I'll definitely miss finishing a call and going back to detachment and hearing Malcolm throw on his best attempt at an East Coaster accent, making fun of how I pronounce certain words on the radio. Malcolm at times had a hard exterior, but in reality, he was a big softie. He was genuine, honest, and deeply loyal to everyone in his life. He would tell you things how they were, no sugarcoating, and that's something I always really respected him for. No matter what situation we got ourselves into, Malcolm was there to help dig us out. I'll always remember the last moments we had together. It was my last shift with him before moving to a new unit. He told me he was proud of me, gave me a big hug, and said, "I love you, brother. I'm gonna miss him forever. I'll even miss his frequent harassment to get my DARS done." Things aren't going to be the same without you, and it was an honor to have known you and been part of your life. We love you, brother. We got it from here, and Big Sarge, you were truly a hero in life.
When I met Malcolm in February 2021, we were both on C Platoon. I saw him as a scary and intimidating person who had a very high standard, but oh, I was wrong. My first notable memory came during shift number 10, when I was driving his favorite Tahoe. It was the day following a trip to the mechanics. That Tahoe would become fully engulfed in flames at the gas pump. Malcolm was not too happy, as he then had to resort to driving a Taurus, which was a fight for Malcolm to squeeze himself into. I share this story because years later, Justin joined our shift, and we later found out he was one of the mechanics that had serviced that Tahoe. But we still allowed him to be one of our friends. As I got to know Malcolm, it didn't take long to see how much wisdom and guidance he had to offer and how ultimately he would make me a better officer. He had a strong interest in traffic and could be often found at mile marker 514 in Brighton. This became our home to good conversations, teachings, and a forever friendship. Even if it meant getting a brutally honest answer when asking him how I was doing as a rookie. The golden helmets meant everything to Malcolm. As soon as the snow melted, he would have the bike out of the garage and he was riding around the parking lot. He was an excellent, dedicated rider and a great addition to their team. Unfortunately, I was never able to attend one of his shows. However, I always knew when he was at one, as I would receive numerous videos with explanations of all the formations. I was speaking to one of the Golden Helmets members about last Monday. I was told that a member had attended the scene right away and had stayed on overwatch of Malcolm the entire time. And I thought this was truly special. There was always somebody with Malcolm. Malcolm You're truly one of a kind person and officer. I'm going to miss you every day. You are my day one partner. And though your presence will be dearly missed, you will never be forgotten. Hero in life, not death. 15378.
Thank you, Provincial Constables Burton, Nelson, Maynard, and Murphy. Thank you. Speaking on behalf of Brandon's parents, I now welcome Provincial Constable Richard Pauls to the podium.
On behalf of Brandon's mother and father, Lisa and Nigel, thank you. Thank you to the Ontario Provincial Police, the Northumberland Detachment, the Golden Helmets, our law enforcement and military partners, and all who stand here today in respect and solidarity. Your presence honors Brandon, his service, and the values he lived by. Brandon Trey Jamal Malcolm, born December 8, 1992, was proud to be an Ontario Provincial Police officer. He understood that uniform represented trust, sacrifice, and responsibility, and he wore it with humility, discipline, and a deep commitment to serving others. Being selected to ride with the OPP Golden Helmets was one of Brandon's greatest honors. He loved the team and all it stood for: precision, trust, tradition, and excellence. He respected the history of the Golden Helmets and was deeply proud to be part of that legacy. To Brandon, it was more than riding. It was belonging to something that demanded the very best of him. Brandon joined the Golden Helmets in May of 2024, and from his very first day, his dedication, ability, and pride in the team were evident. At first glance, Brandon could seem imposing, a big man with a deep voice, but it didn't take long for the team to discover that he was, in truth, a fun-loving and gentle giant with an incredible heart. During the Golden Helmets annual training week, there's a standing tradition meant to build camaraderie, an impromptu dance-off in our practice lot for the new members. Brandon embraced it fully, bringing the entire team to laughter as he launched into an enthusiastic Saturday Night Fever-style moves to the theme song from Chips. Whether or not he knew the song didn't matter. He delivered the moment with confidence, good humor, and a joy that stayed with us all. A few days later, Brandon was spotted having a sip of Pedialyte from his saddlebag. While he may have preferred a nickname like Hoss, Moose, or Tank, weeks later, his helmet appeared with the name Pedialyte printed on the back. Brandon accepted it exactly as he did everything, with humility, good humor, and grace. Just 2 weeks ago, he was heard explaining the story behind the nickname to a complete stranger, smiling and laughing the whole time. If you know Brandon, you remember that smile. Brandon was always willing to help with any task. No job was too small. He was simply happy and proud to serve. We will miss his familiar responses, "Already done," or an enthusiastic "Roger" or "Raj," immediately followed by the task being completed without hesitation and always with a smile. Brandon was profoundly a positive presence, offering quiet words of encouragement that lifted those around him. Many of you may have noticed the small bells hanging from some police motorcycles, little places hidden here and there. These bells cannot be bought. They must be received as a gift. Brandon and his roommate, Dan Clark, gifted these bells to one another, a symbol of friendship and the bond that they shared. Following the tragic collision that took Brandon's life, his motorcycle was returned to headquarters and it was discovered that his bell was missing. Remarkably, it was recovered just the other day at the scene, unscathed, in perfect condition, a powerful reminder of the strength of a bond and a deeply meaningful moment for all of us. Long before policing, music shaped Brandon's life, taking it after his father's steps. He began playing music in church where rhythm and purpose first took hold. He was a drummer and later a trombone player. He became a drum major for the Piper Band of Pride in Sunrise, Florida. That was when he was only 16 years old, a position that typically nobody gets until they're 18. That role reflected his natural leadership, discipline, and ability to guide others with confidence and respect. His dedication earned him a music scholarship, an achievement that made Lisa and Nigel immensely proud. Music taught Brandon teamwork, timing, and the importance of listening, lessons that followed him into every role he would ever take on. Brandon was also deeply committed to learning and service beyond the uniform. He earned an honors degree in forensic psychology, followed by studies in law and security. He served with OPG and was a proud member of the Army Reserve, embracing the values of duty, structure, and service to country. Each step reflected his desire to understand people, protect communities, and contribute meaningfully. To Lisa and Nigel, Brandon was a son of integrity, curiosity, and quiet determination. During Brandon's OPP interview at his parents' home, there was a moment that still brings a gentle smile. When asked a routine background question, Brandon paused, thoughtful and clearly intent on answering carefully. His mother watched him consider each word, determined to be completely honest and do the right thing. It was a very Brandon moment, sincere, conscientious, and guided by integrity. Brandon's life was tragically cut short, and the loss is immeasurable. Yet his family takes comfort knowing that Brandon lived with purpose, served with honor, and followed a life defined by service, discipline, kindness, and heart. On behalf of Lisa and Nigel, thank you for honoring Brandon's life and service. Thank you for standing with them in remembrance. And thank you for ensuring that Sergeant Brandon Malcolm will never be forgotten.
Thank you, Provincial Constable Pauls. Next, we will hear from the chaplain, Paul Carroll of Mapleview Church. He is here today to share a message of support. I now call upon Chaplain Carroll.
As we have heard, Sergeant Brandon Malcolm was a strong and vibrant personality. Kind, he deeply cared about others, was protective of his family, and someone you could rely on. He was an amazing drummer, and he learned how to play, and he played in his own church band when he was growing up. Talented musician, he received a scholarship to a college in the U.S. As gifted as Brandon was musically, he had a passion for law enforcement. He started in security and joined the Canadian Army Reserve. He became a Toronto Auxiliary Police Officer, and later he worked as an Ontario Power Generation Special Constable. But for Brandon, that wasn't enough. He always wanted to be part of the OPP family, where later he applied and was hired and found a home there, eventually becoming part of the Golden Helmets. Brandon always knew where he wanted to go and how to get there. He was and is truly loved and will be missed by all who knew him. It's in times like these that we can find strength and comfort in God's word that's found in the Bible. One of these places in Psalms 23, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." We can find rest, comfort, and protection in the arms of Jesus. One time when Jesus was on earth, he was spending a day talking with his disciples and crowds of people. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, light breeze off the water. a great day to be alive and be on a boat. It says in Mark chapter 4, that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, he took him along, just as he was in the boat, and when the other boats were with him also. A furious squall broke up, and the waves broke over the boat, and it was nearly swamped. It seemed like 1 minute things were pristine, picturesque, perfect, and the next minute a violent storm hit. The disciples are in a panic. They are struggling just to keep the boat afloat. Like the storm of the passing of Brandon has come upon us all of a sudden. May have left us feeling dazed, overwhelmed, and shaken. We might have overload of a flood of emotions, questions, concerns, and struggles, finding it difficult to keep our head above the water. This is where the disciples were when they were with Jesus. It says later in Mark 4, Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" There was a huge storm going on. Jesus was sleeping. To the disciples, it seemed like he didn't care. Maybe you are feeling that Jesus is sleeping, distant, or unaware what is happening in your life. Maybe that he just doesn't care. The disciples say to Jesus, "Don't you care?" Again in Mark 4, it says, he got up, rebuked the wind and the waves, and said, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. Even in the storm, Jesus was in control. Today, I want you to know that you are not alone in your storm. Jesus is with you. He is beside you right now. I encourage you, like the disciples called out to Jesus in their storm, that you would call out to Jesus in your storm. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Lord Jesus, we are here today to remember and celebrate the life of Sergeant Brandon Malcolm. And as we are doing that, I pray for the family, the friends, all the fellow officers, that you would be with them, that you would strengthen them, that you would comfort them in this time of their grieving. We ask all these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Carroll. At this time, members of the ceremonial unit will assist Commissioner Thomas Creek as he presents Sergeant Malcolm's 4-H cap and the Ontario Provincial Police flag to his family. All those able, I ask you to please rise. It is now time for the recessional. Sergeant Malcolm's safe passage has been entrusted to the ceremonial unit. At this point, I would like members of the Northumberland OPP detachment and the OPP Golden Helmets to exit the venue through the doors to my immediate left to form a guard of honor. All others, please, you may be seated and are to remain at their seats to observe the guard of honor and final salute on the display in the middle of the arena.
pushing them back my way. I might have to move. Can we cut out something else?